Address2 is a simple small business CRM software for small business owners. How many of you use Address2 in this room? Raise your hand. Hey, that should make you feel pretty good, right? He's going to give you a round of applause. So you can organize your contacts, you can manage your leads, you can follow up on your tasks and activities. It's a simple CRM. It just works if you work it, and it helps you grow your business. But he also authored a really great book called Unfunded. From bootstrap to blue chip is the idea of starting a business and growing without seed capital or investment money. And it's a really great book. Who here has read Nick's book? Okay, I suggest more of you read Nick's book. It's really awesome, and I'm sure he'll hook you up with the book if you need it. So let's welcome him as he comes to talk to us not something about Address2. Thank you. Give him a round of applause.
My entire speech, my idea, my spark is really, if I had to categorize it, it's going to kind of come out like guy talk. So sorry, ladies. When I called Chris and I told him that this is what I wanted to talk about, he said to me that you're walking off the camera shot and you're out of frame. No. He said to me, you're going to alienate half your audience. That's a bad idea. And I said, no, it's a worse idea because the other half I'm really going to piss off. So by the time I'm done here tonight, half of you will think I wasn't talking to you at all, and the other half of you will be angry at me, which will make this the most awkward stage exit since the time Mayor Brainerd was kicked off the stage at the beginning of May. So it's guy talk. What I want to talk about tonight, actually, is something we don't talk about a whole lot. I want to talk about what it means to be a business man. I'm actually going to talk about masculinity. I want to talk about masculinity in the context of business, and I want you to hear me out. Now, first of all, why am I dividing my audience? Why don't I talk about women? Why don't I give equal representation? The answer is simple. Answer is simple. It's because I'm woefully underqualified for that. So I think you'd agree, I'm not going to stand up here and talk about anything to do with femininity, women. I'm sure that there's other people that are more qualified than I, but I'll just stick within my purview, and that has to do with masculinity. What I want to talk about in this guy talk, well, to start off with, guy talk always, we talk about women, right? So let's talk about women. This is where I would have some really powerful slides to share with you with statistics that Chris would have loved. Did you guys know that 75% of single women live at or below the poverty line?
Yes.
Sorry, 40%. So you're lying. 40% of single women live at or below the poverty line. That is 5 times more than the national average. 8% of our country lives at or below our poverty line, but when you talk about single mothers, it's 5x. And as they're living at the poverty line, they make up 75% of our homeless population. Just imagine what a mother would go through that's homeless and jobless on the streets with no protection in order to provide for her family, and shudder. Now, how they got there is split about 50-50. The stats are right down the middle. It's actually like 49-51. Some of them were divorced, some of them were abandoned, but others of them were never married to begin with. So it really doesn't matter how they got there in terms of those statistics, and we're not going to talk about that, because what I think, and what I'm going to posit tonight, my spark, is that 100% of those women were there because somewhere in their life, someone failed to be a man. I define masculinity, if I can give you a definition and hope that you'll agree with me, masculinity, if it can be defined, is simply this. Masculinity is a responsibility for the benevolence toward women, period. I'm not going to define masculinity. I will not define masculinity by a set of traits that men have that women don't, because there's going to be exceptions everywhere, and anytime you do that, you'll devolve into sexism. But if there can be any definition that differs the genders at all, it will have to do with how we interrelate one to the other. So, with that definition in mind, I will tell you that I believe that when we see women struggling and impoverished, millions of them around us, that it's because somewhere some guy screwed up and failed to be a man. Now, I'm not going to say that it was always the boyfriend or the husband or someone like that. I'm not going to say that all divorces ended because of the husband. That's foolish. But somewhere, maybe it was a father, maybe it was a brother, maybe it was someone who was supposed to take responsibility for them, maybe it was a teacher or a coach, but maybe, and this is why we're here tonight talking about businessmen, maybe it was a boss, maybe it was a coworker, maybe it was a manager, maybe it was a vendor. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to think about how well you're doing at being businessmen. Sorry, I'm cutting my audience in half, but that's what I'm talking to. If you have the job of staffing a trade show booth, and you need to send staff there, who do you pick? Is it the young, hot intern? Is that who gets to go stand at the booth? Why? What if she's married? Does that matter? If the position that you put women in your company, if the role you ask them to fill as employers or as managers, even causes an inkling of jealousy or guilt or strife in a marriage, do you care, and is that your responsibility as a man? Let's go to the other side of the table. Maybe you're not staffing trade show booths, but maybe you attend trade shows. Maybe you're in exhibit halls. How do you pick the booths that you want to walk up to and talk to? When you go to networking meetings, how do you pick the one-on-ones that you'd like to take? How do you pick your vendors? Do you think your vendors do or should care about why it is that you value them as a person and as a vendor? Listen, if sex sells, but you're buying, you're part of the problem. But that's just blatant sexism, and it's relatively safe for me to stand up here and rail against that, actually. I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. I'm probably not going to piss anybody off. Technically, I'm being PC right now, talking out against sexism. So let's get a little bit more uncomfortable, shall we? Let's talk about money and how much you make of it. Guys, how much do you make? How much do you need? Are you able to make a living wage? If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're chasing your dream, can you make that living wage in 40 hours, or do you need to work 60, 80, 100, 120 hours a week? Do you wear it as a badge of honor how hard you work? And how many hours you spend in the office and how grueling it is, and do you need to? Are you being a good man? Are you being responsible to women in your lives? Not just your wives, maybe aging mothers, aging grandparents, daughters, sisters. What's your responsibility as a businessman? What about the men that you employ? Can they earn a living wage in 40 hours, or are you able to send them home? Or no? Have you so self-aggrandized yourself that you believe that their number one responsibility is to you and not to the women in their lives? If we're going to define masculinity that way, are you helping other young men? Are you helping men to be good businessmen? What about women that you employ? There's women in this room. What about women that you employ? I can't even believe we still have to talk about this, but the statistics tell me that we do. For some stupid reason, we're still paying women less than we pay men. I don't know why, but the stats bear that out. Listen, if my definition is to be accepted, that the role of men is to take a benevolent responsibility for women, it's not because they can't take it for themselves. It's not out of a result that they're impotent, that they need help, that they need somebody to provide for them because they're incapable or incompetent. No. Look around. There are brilliant businesswomen in this room who are probably better at business than you are or I am. It doesn't make you less of a man unless you fail to recognize it. I'm actually really glad that in our society today, and here's where I'm going to jump off the deep end, so I wish I were behind a screen for all those broken bottles that are coming at me. I'm glad in our society today that women have the opportunity to start a career. That was a huge wrong that's been righted in our society. But I think we've come to another end of the pendulum. I wonder, do women still have a choice to start a career? I fear that either here tonight or somewhere in an office, someone is working late, not because she was blessed with the option to start a career in her life, because she was given no option. She was given no choice. Let's talk about what kind of a business you build, what kind of an income you build. Are you chasing some misconstrued concept of success and your own reputation in the world and how people look at you and your family and your house and your car, that you've made the decision for the women in your lives? Maybe. What about the kinds of income opportunities that you create in your company? Talking to employers again, managers. What about that? Are we giving women the choice to have a career? I'm really glad that women do. I think they do a great job at it. And I think that the only gender that should have a choice is women, to produce. That's the way I feel. I feel to produce in our society, I don't have a choice. I don't feel like I was given that or granted that by my gender. That's the way I feel. You could disagree with me. So I'm sure I'm running out of time. I know I'm running out of some of your patience. It's quite all right. Listen, I didn't want to get up here and rant like I think that I'm the best man in the room. I'm not flexing my muscles. I've screwed up at this, okay? I wanted to spark an idea. I was asked to come here and spark an idea, and I could have sparked an idea about how to make some more money, about how to improve your marketing, about how to be more efficient. Could spark all kinds of ideas, but I decided I wanted to spark an idea that might change our society.